Welcome to Let's Talk About Gay Stuff. Woo! The podcast where we talk about gay stuff and discuss the week in LGBT plus history. Today we have another special edition of Let's Talk About Gay Stuff, the quiz show edition. It's where we invite our friends to the Kiki. So, of course, we got a little bit of distraction. That's a little TikTok coming live from Spencer's phone. Of course, by joining us in the quiz show edition, they don't just get to kiki. They have to earn their gay card by scoring the most points after 2 rounds of questions about what else? Gay stuff. So before we welcome our guest, Miss Tammy Wallace, let's say hello to my co-host, Toni.
Hey,
you're on the hot seat today. You're going to be competing.
I am, and I didn't know I was competing until today, so I didn't have a chance to study.
I couldn't give you the leg up. I told Tammy yesterday. I told Tammy before. I was
like, oh my god, I don't listen to our episodes.
And usually you're too many drinks in, so I think you might have the leg up, Tammy.
Let's
so
see.
It'll be good. And so hello to Kendall.
Hello.
All right, Kendall will be joining us a little later with our Kiki. We're gonna have our Kiki with Tammy, and we're gonna have a special guest with Spencer today. Hello, Spencer.
How's it going?
Spencer's gonna fill in the part of he's auditioning, rather, not just filling in the part. He's
no.
I did the best.
Spencer has the job. He is our new scorekeeper / on-air advertising marketing person.
It is the one job that Toni hates about this podcast.
Nice hire.
He is hired. Yes.
Interestingly enough, like as much as Toni is like he is the person for he's our one like resident engineer. He's terrible at math, so he's bungled the scoring a few times. So I pity to his clients. No,
our episode was published, and people are like, "Wait, I think he's keeping scoring correctly."
Yeah, we got some comments saying that's not right. So. All right, so let's say hello to our guest now. So, Tammy, how are you? Tammy is the co-founder and current board chair of the Houston LGBT Chamber of Commerce. She's also the founder of EnFocus Group. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you, and thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for joining us. So, tell us a little bit about yourself. We'll get into more detail, but just a little kind of 30-second spiel on Tammy Wallace.
30-second spiel. Well, you have my relevant titles, but my passion is certainly the chamber, and then with EnFocus Group, we work on LGBTQ diversity, inclusion, training, and consulting. So I've been active in the Houston LGBTQ community for about 20 plus years, dating myself, and I love to see podcasts like this. Bringing more visibility for our community.
Very good.
Kudos.
And your wife and the furry babies, is that right?
Yes, Mercedes is my wife. We've been together for 11 years.
All right.
Yes, we have 6, 3 dogs and 3 dogs and 3 cats. And all rescue, so I always say we've got our angel's wings.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, right on. So, great. So, you guys ready to get started?
Let's do it.
All right, no pressure. This will be easy. All right, so in the first round, you'll answer questions about some topical LGBT-related issues. And in the second round, we'll quiz you on the latest episode of the podcast. So, hopefully you took a listen. It's the episode we released on September the 22nd. So, that's covering the week of September 22nd to September 28th. So, let's review the rules of round 1 first, because Toni doesn't know them for sure.
Apparently.
I don't.
This round will consist of 6 questions, and you will each be asked 3 questions, and we'll alternate questions between the 2 of you. So for the question, you'll get 10 seconds to answer it correctly. If you answer before the 10 seconds is up, you'll earn 3 points. If you answer after the 10 seconds, you'll have a chance to answer and earn 2 points. If you do not answer it correctly or don't have an answer at all, then the other person can steal and answer the question. If they do it correctly, they earn 1 point. Again, Toni has no.
That's where I messed up. I'm just 3.
So you guys got it?
Can I get 3 and he can get 1?
Yeah. Sound good?
Let's do it.
Clear as mud. All right. So normally we ask the contestants who's going to select the categories and who's going to go first. But Tammy's going to select the category and she's going to go first. So
okay, perfect.
This is a guest. You're on the home team here. So Tammy will get to select the category, which you guys will be quizzed on. So the categories are business leaders or historical LGBT people.
Historical LGBT people.
All right, historical LGBT people. So what category are we in right now? Historical LGBT people. Are you right? You ready to earn your gay card?
Ready.
All right, here we go. So Tammy, like I said, we'll start with you. And we are doing historical LGBT people. So In 2009, Congress passed a federal hate crime bill, which for the first time included protections for LGBT people and was inspired and bears the name of this hate crime victim.
Matthew Shepard.
That is correct. All right. All right. Damn it, there we go. The audience is getting into it. Question number 2. Harvey Milk was famously portrayed, this is for Toni, by the Academy Award-winning actor in this movie, Milk.
Sean Penn.
Sean Penn, that is correct. We should note, by the way, that you guys, I mean, the reason we put Toni on the hot seat is because you guys, Tammy and Toni, you guys know each other. They have a long history.
I have a good story about the first time I met her, so we'll do this.
We'll get that in the KK. Very good, good. So that's why we have Toni in the hot seat, and that's why we're talking about historical LGBT people, because you guys have been involved in the community for quite some time, especially on the political front. So again, we'll get more into that in the KK in just a bit. So question number 3 is over to you, Tammy. We have a tie score right now, so here it is. This Fortune 500 CEO came into the CEO role in 2011 and publicly came out in 2014.
Tim Cook.
That is correct. Woo! All right, so I'm cheering. I'm supposed to be like the host, the neutral one.
There's nothing wrong with enthusiasm.
No offense.
I obviously have a bias.
Take him down, Tammy.
All right, Toni, here's your question.
You see what I put up with?
I see.
Dilys Martin and Phyllis Lyon founded this organization in San Francisco in 1955.
Daughters of Bilitis.
That is correct. Oh, tie game. I'm glad I came up with those tiebreaker questions. All right, question number 5. This is the last round of the question for you, Tammy. Our last question of the round. So Ellen DeGeneres, who famously came out on her TV show Ellen, had a comeback in this animated blockbuster where she played the character Dory. What was the name of the movie?
Oh, it's the fish movie. Finding Dory? No.
Oh, that is incorrect.
Finding Nemo.
That is correct.
I would have never got it if you didn't say the fish story. I watch no movies. I know nothing about pop culture. I'm like out, and then when you're like fish story, I was like, ooh.
I don't even know if I saw that movie.
All right, so last question. I feel badly because I think Toni's going to get this one. So, because y'all were just talking about her. So, Anise Parker is currently the CEO of this organization, which assists viable LGBTQ plus candidates in getting elected.
Victory Fund.
That is correct. Yep. So that is the end of round 1. Spencer, what is our score?
Toni 10, Tammy 6.
Toni 10.
I would like to say I think this is the highest scoring game ever in our history of the quiz show.
We got some smart people here. All right.
Thank you.
All right, so that's the end of the round 1. We've got the score noted. Toni is up, but I think Tammy's going to come back. So before we get to our final round, let's kiki with Miss Tammy. But first, Spencer, a word from our sponsor.
Of course, we'd like to thank our sponsor, EconomyWorks, a freelance talent network that connects professionals with project work. If you're a company that needs help with writing job descriptions, conducting market analysis, managing your social media platforms, EconomyWorks has an extensive talent network of freelance professionals ready to help you do more with less. EconomyWorks. When we work, the economy works. Find out more at economyworks.com. That's ECONOMIWORKS.com.
Toni, are you excited? You didn't have to say that. Oh,
he's hired.
Every quiz show.
I'm officially resigned. I wanted to resign before, but no. It's like
well, because the critics in the room were like, "We need more from you, Toni."
They hate me here, Tammy.
He's like our Judy Garland. He feels so much pressure.
Yes, that's why I'm watching Judy this weekend.
Oh, me too.
That's gonna be good. That's gonna be good.
Well, welcome, Tammy.
Thank you.
So you are the co-founder and current chair of the Houston LGBT Chamber of Commerce.
I am.
But first, what is that accent? That accent reminds me where I'm from, Louisiana. I was hoping it was Louisiana, is it?
It's funny you say that because I just had someone tell me the other day, I was talking to from California, they're like, have you ever thought about doing voiceover work? I'm like, no, I've never thought about it. And they're like, you could totally do this. And then they went to the whole Ann Richards thing. But, so I was born in Memphis, raised across the state line in Mississippi. I've been in Houston, Texas for 35 years.
Okay.
So I always joke I've got this cross of that Mississippi country and this Texas drawl, and this is what you get.
What drew you to Houston?
Oh, that's an interesting story. I came here to go to Bible school.
Oh.
I actually thought I was going to marry a missionary and go off to some country and, Yeah, that didn't work out.
Oh, I could do a whole show on just that interview topic alone.
Yeah, it was, and Pentecostal, if anybody's familiar, very, very deeply religious background, fundamentalist, and that's what I thought I was going to do with my life. And I actually got kicked out of the Bible school because they thought, and I didn't know at the time, that I was a lesbian.
Oh my gosh.
And I was 17. I was 18. I moved here when I was 17, 18 at the time. Got kicked out and had to figure out what I was going to do, whether I was going to go home or stay here. And thank God, no pun intended, that I ended up staying because my life and my trajectory of everything that I've done would be so radically different
Yeah.
than if I had gone back to Mississippi. So it was one of those things. It was a true... I remember somebody saying, you're going to understand this one of these days. And I remember that moment where I actually understood why all that pain and everything that happened to me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in many ways, you probably did greater things because you had to go through that.
Absolutely. Yes.
So what was that conversation like where your Bible school tells you you're not the right fit for Bible school?
Yeah, the school had problems with homosexuality. And so I got pulled into the president's office. I've really never told this publicly, but this is great. I got pulled into the president's office where they basically said, we assume, because I had a friend who was a roommate that I was very, very close to, and they thought something was going on, and nothing was actually going on. I was attracted to her when I look back now, but I couldn't connect to that. I didn't understand it. And but they had these issues with homosexuality. They weren't tolerating any of it, and they said, it's time for you to go.
What did you go through personally when you, like, after that moment and you're like, oh my God? Like,
Did you start thinking maybe I am a lesbian?
Yeah, and I had been struggling with my sexual orientation since I was a teenager.
Yep.
So it wasn't like some kind of shock. I just hadn't been able to connect that I was, because in this deeply religious environment, this was such a conflict for me.
Yep.
So if I was a lesbian, I'm going to hell.
yeah.
Right? And so I didn't want to go to hell. I mean, this is what was ingrained in me since the time I was a young kid. So I had all this conflict going on.
And isn't it hard? Because I'm from like a small town, and like it wasn't religious, but like it's just this rough and tumble, non-open-minded, all white people. And same, like your mind won't let you be honest with
Exactly.
yourself and
That's
stuff.
right.
It's like, and it takes years for your own mind, even when you're in a different city and everything, to be like, no, it's okay,
And when you actually, it was like a process of getting out of the church.
Yeah.
Totally. Everything. I had hair down to my waist because the Pentecostal religion that I was affiliated with, you didn't cut your hair. Mm-hmm. So I hadn't cut my hair since
all your
I was
glory
like,
and
10, And so just the act of cutting my hair, much less trying to step away, and all of a sudden, this was a social construct for me. My parents were divorced, so I got a lot of security and comfort by being around my church family. And so to be able to cut that part out of my life, it's really one of the most traumatic things that have happened to me when I think about those kind of, we all have them, right? Those trauma incidents in our life.
Yeah.
That was definitely
And even,
one of them.
things like that, like you say, that was your family, for all the negative aspects, there's also positive. And like, I'm
Oh,
sure when you're like,
absolutely.
I'm cutting my hair, like you're giving up part of your heritage. Yeah. Like you're,
Yeah.
Yeah.
True story, though, when I cut my hair, I worked at Fingers Furniture. They love to hire the Bible school kids. And I cut my hair and I walked into the Bible school, into work that day. And they're like, who's the new girl? And then when I got closer and closer, they're like, oh, that's Tammy. They were shocked. That's how drastic.
So I moved to high school in Alexandria, Louisiana, which is like United Pentecostal capital.
Oh, yes, it is.
Maybe the
What
world.
was it? The
even.
pastor there. I know who, yes.
Mangum.
Yes. Oh.
Yes. And I'm a preacher's kid, Methodist preacher's kid.
Oh, yeah.
So when you come out as someone that grew up in a religious household, you have to question your entire
Everything.
life, I feel like.
Everything.
Because you're going against every single thing you've been told.
Yeah.
The whole basis of your worth as a human being.
That's right. You're absolutely right. The self-worth is so tied into that, and then it's exacerbated by all these feelings trying to figure out who you are, and not even understanding that, because then, like, this is not the, air quotes, normal way I'm supposed
Right.
to be, right? So you have to deal with that family. It's no wonder we're so strong as a community.
Yep.
Well, and also once you challenge, because coming out challenges gender norms, it challenges sexuality norms, all that kind of stuff. In a sense, it kind of makes you more you would think, and tell me if I'm wrong, to say, well, hell, I just came out of the closet. Maybe cutting my hair isn't such a big deal.
Right. Yes.
You know?
Yep.
Maybe doing the biggest thing allows you to do some of the other, quote, hard things. That,
Absolutely.
yeah, very interesting story.
Yeah.
It's coming out week, National Coming Out Day, I should say, coming up soon.
October 11th.
11th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're going to tell our stories on a podcast that's coming up.
Oh, beautiful. That's great.
Just a little after this quiz show comes out. So thank you for telling us that. 'Cause
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
what I've learned doing this podcast is you never know what's going to resonate with certain people.
Mm-hmm.
So when you tell your story like that, people are like, oh, there's something in Tammy's story that I really resonated with me.
Well, I would say to your listeners who are out there and struggling, and particularly those in small towns trying to figure out, do I come out? There is light at the end of that tunnel, and that was one of the darkest times of my life.
Mm-hmm.
But when I came out of that, it's where I really began to find my purpose and who I am.
And we have like a very, very strong supporter of the podcast, and he's pretty newly out. I mean, he's probably our age, late 30s, but he's only been out like less than 2 years, maybe even just a year.
Yeah.
And so he's talked about, you know, it's the best thing he's ever done, but it seems like it's a pretty big struggle
It's
right
hard.
now. And so, yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah. So it's, you know, when you hear stories like this, it's like there is light at the end of the tunnel, and
Yeah.
yeah.
And you stayed in Houston.
I did. You know, I actually, when I got officially kicked out, drove home on a Saturday. My mom was like, come home. That's it. Don't worry about it.
Did you
Just
tell her
come
the
home."
reasoning why you had to come home?
I did. She didn't understand. She wasn't in the religion. My grandmother was. And but my mom was just the type of, let's just come home and we'll deal with it. And that meant we don't talk about it.
Right.
Right.
Which is very Southern, very religious.
Exactly. And so as long as we could do that, it was fine. The hardest part was I actually drove home on a Saturday and then woke up Sunday morning. But I literally, at the time, the trip from Houston to Memphis, right outside South Haven, Mississippi, was 12 hours. I think I cried a tear every mile along the way.
You're probably dreading
Because
it.
you have to understand, as a teenager, this is what I saw as my calling.
Yeah.
This is what I was
Yeah.
supposed to do. And going to Bible school and for my home church was like, well, of course Tammy's going to do this. She's involved in the youth committee, etc. My mom lost her job the summer before I was supposed to come to Houston to go to Bible school. I'd saved all this money working. And you know what I had to do with it when she lost her job? Because she was a single parent. I had to give her all that. Well, what did my church family do? They raised all that money for me to be able to come to the school. So now I have to go back to the school, to this home church,
And
them say,
What the hell happened?
what are you doing
What are
here?
you doing back
And
already?
you know, I
Actually, we
can't
studied.
go, oh, I got kicked out because I'm a lesbian, right? So what did I have to do? Then I have to mask, and the shame. is
Adds
just-
to
Yeah.
the shame.
Exactly. So it just wasn't for me. Yeah, I thought it,
Yeah.
But the good thing is, Monday morning I woke up, my stepfather, my sister, my mom, all at work. I woke up and I just had these moments of, what am I doing, That night, my mom and I went to dinner, and I always tell this story, like, she threw out this safety net to me because she could tell I was in such anguish about whether I should stay in Houston, should have stayed in Houston. And the word she said to me was, if you're always going to wonder, you need to answer that question. And please remember, you can always come home.
Yeah.
And when she threw that safety net out, it was like a light bulb went off for me that I had to come back to Houston. And
What a
try.
great mom. I mean, some
Yeah,
people in
yeah.
her situation would have been like, this is your bedline.
Especially for
Yeah.
your 18-year-old
Yes.
kid, right, who's going to come back to this big city. I had no family here.
Yeah.
But she saw something that I didn't even understand
Yep.
at the time.
And some parents are like, not anything wrong, but they're a bit selfish, and I want my daughter here.
Yeah,
So she
yeah.
would have steered you towards, oh, just stay here, it'll be okay.
She was a mature parent.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
what an amazing mom to be like, seek your destiny. If it doesn't work
Yeah.
out, I'm here.
I think
you
she
know?
was just so aware of the anguish that I felt, and,
Yep.
and I think there's probably a part of her that saw to the opportunity, like for me to move from, she knew Houston was a good place.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of opportunity for me.
So you think
Yeah.
she knew?
I do. I think
Yeah.
deep down, and she still misses me, terribly. It's like it's really, really hard as she's aged, but there's no doubt in my mind it's always been the right decision.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, had that not happened, what would Tammy be doing right now? You think?
Yeah, I have a feeling
Long hair. That hair would be to the floor.
I would have gotten married
Yeah,
to a man,
yep.
been in a bad marriage, been miserable. You can just see the writing on the wall.
Yeah. And had kids, and then you're stuck in that. Yeah.
Exactly.
My fear was always, I can't come out, so I don't want to put a woman through the lie.
Yeah.
Because if you're in the closet and you marry someone of the opposite sex, you're like asking them to co-sign on your lie.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it's almost like fraud.
Yeah.
Yep.
I didn't want to do that, so I'm like, I guess I'll just be an old single gay man.
Mm-hmm.
Because in my head it was, if I come out, my dad's going to lose his job. We'll have to move out of the town. All these terrible worst
All that
case
weight
things.
on
Yeah.
your shoulder. And how old were you?
Oh, well, I came out to him at 17. I came out at 15.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
All
I
that's
knew
on
I
your
was
shoulders.
gay from 4. Like, I remember having that feeling when I was 4.
Yeah.
As in, like, if I act too gay, it's going to cause trouble.
Right. And that's what our community goes through. I mean, we
Yeah.
wear that
Oh, yeah.
weight on our shoulders constantly for our entire families because of that.
And you don't realize it till years later when you're free
Right.
that you're like, God, that was, yeah.
Yeah.
So you thankfully stayed.
Yes.
And then now you are the founder and chair of the Houston LGBT Chamber of Commerce. Now tell us first about the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah, so the Houston LGBT Chamber, we're an affiliate of the National LGBT Chamber, so they are an overarching body. All of the LGBT chambers, I think there's 70 across the country, and then there's now also global LGBT chambers, are affiliates of the National Chamber. So they spearhead a lot of corporate support. They are the certifying body for the LGBT own business certification. It's called an LGBTBE or business enterprise certification. So they're the certifying body. We collaborate with them on that to bring in more businesses to get certified and handle that locally for them. They put on, again, the big conference, a lot of corporate support. They are at the national level working on LGBTQ legislation to support LGBTQ business owners, working to get more LGBTBE businesses in the acceptance of that in city, state, quasi-governmental entities. So they take a lead on that and work with local affiliates to do that.
So say on a local level, at any chapter I should say,
Mm-hmm.
I've started a business, I'm a gay person, say it's like a little wig line for your pets or something like that.
Yep.
Cat bikini, something, something fun.
Let's talk. Yeah. Good.
How would the LGBT Chamber of Commerce, no matter where you live, if there's an affiliate, benefit me as like a gay business person?
Well, first of all, we're going to offer support and structure for you as a business owner. I think what we've found since we launched the Houston LGBT Chamber in 2016 is that there's been an opportunity for connection and community all through this business lens. We've had a lot of people tell us we love coming to the chamber.
And when was the Houston chapter's founded?
2016.
2016.
And a lot of people just remark how great it is to be at our chamber events. And for a while I couldn't understand that, but then several people said to me, we love other chambers, but this is different. And I tried to figure out why. And then I really, really was able to put, my finger on it. It is more than business. It's more than, hey, Toni, what do you do? Right?
Yeah.
But it's tell me more about what you do and how can I help you. It's about connection. It's about community. And it's about creating our seat at the table in this city that we have not had. Our community in Houston has largely been looked at as an activist community. We tend to be the loudest voices in the room when we need to be, or we're seen as a voting bloc. I want your vote.
Yep.
Thank you. We'll see you next election. We have never had representation like we have now for the LGBTQ business community. That voice is important when you think about economic development, tourism, all those things that are happening in our city. Our businesses need to be at the table. And not only be at the table, but we must have a voice, and that's what we're working on.
So what we get asked every now and then as co-host of this podcast is, why do you need to have a gay-only podcast? Is the perception? Mm-hmm. Why is there a need for an LGBT-specific Chamber of Commerce in your mind?
Well, first I'd say we were very purposeful about putting allies in our mission statement because we don't go it alone, right? But there is a sense of being with other business owners that have the same values alignment with you. I was actually talking to one of our corporate partners today about this. I'll give them a plug, Regions Bank, and talking about when they show up at our events and an LGBTQ business owner sees them, then they know Regions Bank is very, very supportive, right? If they just walk generically into a Regions Bank and they don't have that connection, then as a business owner, do I say my husband or my wife? Do I out myself? Are they going to deny my loan, right?
Mm-hmm.
For them to be at our events and to be corporate partners, it speaks volumes. And so, but because that exists, we can't be fully authentically ourselves. We have to cover in certain situations. That's why the chamber is needed. Not only for to support our business owners, but again, to have that seat at the table as a bigger picture.
What's the type of like advocacy, or I don't know if lobbying's a better word, that the local chamber does on behalf of gay businesses?
We're working to get the LGBT BE certification recognized at the city, at the county. Our good friends over at the caucus, the Houston GLBT caucus, actually added a question to the municipal screening questionnaire this year to ask candidates, would you support the inclusion of LGBTBE businesses in city contracting? And if you think about that, the city has a lot of certifications that are not race or gender related. Think about disability, veterans, they have a SBE, small business enterprise. None of that's race or gender. LGBTBE certification, we're just saying if you're going to accept these other certifications, we're taxpayers. We should have an opportunity of those contracting opportunities. We should have a seat at the table. Doesn't mean that we're guaranteed anything, but we should have a seat. But we have to do the work with the city to educate them about what this means, to add this type of certification, because guess what? It's new. And you just recently, Nashville, Orlando, cities like that announced that they're accepting it.
So a lot of these, quote, anti-LGBT laws that we see are also tied in with business. Like you can't separate the two. Like the Chick-fil-A bill that recently passed Texas, which was kind of clothed in this religious freedom thing. Or the bathroom bill, not allowing trans people to use bathrooms that were of the sex they identify with. Is there any kind of role for the chamber in preventing those types of laws, or what is the political aspect, or is there one?
Well, absolutely, and what we've seen with this bigoted anti-LGBTQ legislation is corporate partners lead the way, right? Mm-hmm. Corporate Fortune 500s, they have created a trend that we're not going to take this. So working with our partners at United, we work with them this legislative session on some various legislation around everything that you heard coming up, basically we were involved with at some level. And then you've got Equality Texas that's working on it from a social aspect, and you've got Open for Business. So all of this is collaborative work. HRC, of course, was involved in that. So the role that we can play is we bring a business lens to it that nobody else brings around the table for the LGBTQ community. A lot of these organizations are looking at it from it's just the right thing to do, and it is. But we can bring numbers to it in economic development. LGBTQ-owned businesses put back $1.7 trillion into the economy, for example. Those types of numbers.
Well, it seems like a lot of these major corporations, you go to gay pride parades, and it's every float now, instead of being shunned by corporations, is sponsored by Bank of America, all that. Mm-hmm. It can feel sometimes that they're late to the game.
Yep.
Instead of being on the forefront of acceptance and all that. You have a business EnFocus group that seems to kind of deal with that. Tell me about that. Yeah,
we work with organizations. We say that we connect organizations to the power of LGBTQ inclusion, because what we know is when LGBTQ employees feel valued, when they feel seen, heard, productivity goes up, creativity goes up. Businesses that are LGBTQ inclusive and embrace LGBTQ employees, you can see it just from a bottom business line number. it's good business. But what we see, and the reason that I launched the work through EnFocus Group, is there's a lot of organizations that are struggling trying to figure out, how do we educate our employees? How do we...
Or what's the right thing to say?
What's the right thing to say? And even our own community. So we do what we call Words Matter workshop. Because even our own community, when you start going LGBTQIA, what does that mean? So if we try to figure it out and don't always understand, then of course, the straight community doesn't necessarily understand it. So what we do is try to bring this type of education into organizations in a way where we meet participants where they're at. Our goal is not to do this from a finger-pointing perspective, but it is about sharing our lives and stories, and what taking that, a little bit of the academic educational piece of it, but connecting it truly to stories so people in the audience can understand what it means to walk in our shoes, but also how they can be a strong ally, how they can actually take action at work. Could be putting your pronouns on your signature, right? It could be asking, if you're going around the table and saying, what did you do this weekend? And saying, how's your wife,
Yeah.
Right? Very purposeful things, but people don't, unless you teach people how to do that, they don't know.
Well, it was so shrouded in secrecy for up until recently.
Yes.
In some places it still is. I mean, I work in, oil and gas banking.
Very,
oh, yeah. So it's like, yeah. So it still is.
And we do a course called Armoring Up in the Workplace. And what that means is, think about, for LGBTQ people, we get up every day just like everybody else. Imagine that. We shower, right? We get dressed, we go to work. But for a lot of us, there's that additional layer. We got to put on that armor,
Yep.
And when we can just completely let go of that armor, when we can walk into our workplace and be our most authentic selves, that's powerful.
I think there's a hunger for people that aren't in the LGBT community not to be offensive. I think they're kind of scared, am I saying the wrong thing? And a lot of times it comes from a place of ignorance, which isn't a bad thing. It just means you're not familiar with it. Have you seen people being more receptive in the last few years?
Definitely.
Of even having the conversation?
And what we've seen and through our work is people they want the education. So when an organization brings this type of training in an environment where they can just learn and they can ask questions, it's non-judgmental. We respect people on their journey wherever they're at. It's like this kind of collective sigh, like,
Yeah.
yeah. And employees want to know more. They want to be able to ask questions, but they are scared because, am I going to offend someone? Am I going to break a rule? So when you can give them this type of environment to come in and learn, and it's also a great team connection as well, because all of a sudden you might have a coworker that says, yeah, I've struggled with this. And all of a sudden, like, wow, Toni, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, too, an organization that is accepting of LGBT people, it allows people that may be different in some other way to just feel more accepted versus, for example, one of my friends, he works for an oil company, and there was this guy that he was super smart and everything, but he had sleeve tattoos, and he always had to cover them up. And after he had worked there a few years, and he was had gained great credibility, and he started showing those, a lot of people admitted, they said, if he'd had those day one, we would have misjudged him. And so, if anybody's able to be open and be themselves, it just they don't have their armor on, whatever they're dealing with or going through. Yeah.
And it's such a shame that so many employees have to come into the workplace where you spend so much time. And I know for my own personal, I spent 14 years in financial services. And so for a bulk of that, I was constantly vetting my words. Mm-hmm. What did I say? What did you do this weekend? Oh, I was with dinner with a friend.
Right.
And all the energy that I had to use to cover is energy I could have used to be more creative, more productive in my job. It literally rips pieces of you on a day-to-day basis. And, it's something I talk about, too, because LGBTQ business owners actually can have the more or less a second coming out. And when I launched my business in 2012, it was, am I going to put this on my website? Am I, because I wasn't doing this specific work originally. Am I going to talk about my wife with a potential client? All these things we have to constantly think about.
Crazy.
And you know, straight people, not to say that they don't have to think about other things, but they don't have to think constantly about these this basic vocabulary.
You know what? It is true. I have a friend, married, 4 kids, whatever, and he's kind of evolved on accepting gay people or whatever. And he said to me once a few years ago, he goes, I could not imagine going to work every day and just not being able to talk about Jenny. Like just,
Exactly.
oh, Jenny burnt the toast this morning.
Right.
You know, it's just, he's like, I can't even imagine that.
Yeah.
The way I describe it is that when I was in the closet, every decision I made had to go through a gay filter.
That's right.
As if I pick up this is a quiet room. If people see me pick up this piece of bread, is it going to be so gay that they're going to realize I'm gay? So
Right.
you find yourself not even reaching for things, not walking out of the room if lots of people in there because you don't want to draw attention to the fact that you're a closeted gay person.
And you know what? That is painful to deal with every day. I mean, it's like the stress of your job that you already have. And then if it's a situation where for some people, they just have to vet because, you know, with their coworkers, I just need to be careful, but everything's good. I'm a valued employee.
Yep.
For others, it's literally a matter of if they find out, I'm going to get fired.
And I've got a family to support or whatever.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, the pressure of that every day. So, and that's why we see so many, you know, particularly the millennials going, I'm going to work for a company that's LGBTQ inclusive.
Yep.
They refuse to work in these types of environments anymore. They won't do it.
Because it says something about the organization, as I said, not only for LGBT people, but in general. Like, nobody wants to work for that kind of
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
I feel like so much of the conversation for years was for making gay marriage legal and making be able to serve in the military legal. So once those two huge things in a relatively short time between each other became legal, it opened up this whole opportunity to look at other people's rights within the community that we hadn't been focusing on because
Yeah.
we were so consumed with marriage, basically.
Yep.
You're doing EnFocus group is doing a workshop October 23rd called Words Matter, how LGBT inclusive language builds inclusive cultures. I feel like that's not even a conversation we would be able to focus on a few years ago because they'd say,
Yep.
that's so far from what our main, we're at a place where we can talk about these issues now. Tell me about that workshop.
So this is what we call our foundational workshop. It's really, some might liken it to LGBTQ 101, but not to be misconstrued that it's literally that L is lesbian, G is gay. It is really starting with the foundational terms and helping people in the room connect to understand what those terms mean, but putting it in context to that story. But it's also a workshop about creating an action plan. We do this with teams where they can create an organizational action plan. How can we as a team be more LGBTQ inclusive? Or individual action plans. What can I do as an individual to help maybe make my coworkers, my LGBTQ coworkers, feel more comfortable? And it's a 2-hour workshop that we do. We've taken this in-house to organizations, and this is actually our first kind of public-facing workshop because
Catering to business owners that want to be more
business owners, it could be
managers,
people that are in HR. We've got a variety of people. We've actually got 2 managers that are coming from a local restaurant who reached out to us and said, we want to make sure that when customers walk through the door, they feel comfortable in our restaurant, and we're not quite sure how to do that. And I said, well, we're putting this workshop together. They said, where do I sign up?
Oh,
And that's the interesting thing about this work when you start to think about who needs this type of training. And we go beyond training too, and consulting and coming in and do your forms align? Are they gender neutral? All of that. But think about it. Law enforcement, corporate, get very specific, oil and gas, restaurant
city
industry,
government,
city, hospitality. The list is endless.
Medical. I mean, you think of all
Healthcare
these.
is huge, particularly for the trans community. And so these companies, these organizations that are on the forefront of this and do this in an authentic and genuine way, they are going to lead, and they are going to attract the best and brightest.
Yep.
So how do they sign up? Where is it?
So
What's the
you
date?
can
What's the
our website EnFocusGroup.com has a link right at the top for
and that's
upcoming
spelled
events. EnFocus Group.com. Thank you for that. And we're going to do that. It's roughly a 2-hour workshop, and we're going to have we'll have breakfast. We want to make sure everybody's well fed to learn, and it's going to be a great morning.
It's such a good idea. I had never even heard of this happening anywhere until doing research for this interview, and it's like, oh, of course, it's
I
such a good idea that was there the whole time.
I'll tell you where the idea came from, where it got seeded for me. Though I was working with a client who's doing a lot of great work in our community, but they were sharing with me there's this constant struggle of people coming to them saying, "Can you do this training?" Just getting calls from all over the place, and they couldn't find. This is not their core mission, so it was kind of peeling them off about what they should be doing. And so I started researching and saying, who is doing this? And there were a couple of people in the community, but they were more focused on just specifically the education around the trans piece, for example, or just some other more specific, maybe it's just healthcare. And that's where I said, we have to bring this work to life. There needs to be an opportunity for organizations to be able to tap into this. And we did a training this morning with a fantastic group that does association management. And their team, 7 of them, sat around the table, and they were able to just authentically ask questions. And they said, we appreciate so much just being able to ask these questions in this environment. But we're going to do for a big oil and gas firm in October in conjunction with Coming Out Week.
Oh, no, that's awesome.
It's two oil companies two companies that have merged, and they want to do this kind of as a team builder during LGBTQ History Month / Coming Out Day. So yeah.
It would even be good for LGBT people to do workshops like this, because I may be gay, but I'm not expert on what it's like to be trans.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So for the LGBT Chamber of Commerce, what types of events do you all do, and where can we find out about that?
So we do 2 standing monthly events. We have what we call our Brewing Up Business. That's the second Wednesday of the month. And then we have our Chamber Happy Hour, which is the last Thursday of the month. And then events interspersed, such as luncheons. We do every June our big Pride and Business event. And it is the only business event during Pride Month in Houston, and it's something that continues to grow every year. But we have a great, robust calendar on our website at HoustonLGBTChamber.com. You can also sign up for our newsletter there, learn more about the LGBT BE certification. We really want to encourage more business owners to get certified, and we've seen just this year a tremendous spike in the number of businesses getting certified.
And for those that don't live in Houston, there are 70 chapters, I believe.
70 chapters. There's 3 in Texas, Austin, San Antonio, and North Texas. And a shout out to our North Texas colleagues. They actually helped us get off the ground in 2016 through the good work of their CEO, Toni. And so we always try to help new chambers. And we actually now have what we call the Texas LGBT Chambers of Commerce. It's a collaboration working with them on advocacy, and we're going to take that even further in the coming years to help connect members in different cities.
And I do have one thing. So the certification, exactly how do businesses get that, and what does it mean for the business to get that?
That is a great question. So you have to be 51% or more LGBT owned to qualify for that. And then what you do, your first step is to join our chamber, because when you go to the National LGBT Chamber to start your application and certification process, the first thing they're going to ask you is, are you a member of your local chamber? And if so, your certification fee is going to be waived. So that's a huge benefit. Not only do you get all the membership benefits of being part of the local chamber, but that certification fee is waived. Once they get through the paperwork and everything is in order, they reach out to us and ask us to do what's called a site visit, and we come over and validate. If you say you own a candle shop, we walk through. Do you have signage? Is this accurate? Because we want to make sure that all the boxes are checked.
Okay.
Yep. And then we send that paperwork back to them. They put it in front of a rather large certification committee who evaluates all the applications, and then they will let the business owner know. And we proudly announce our certified businesses as well.
Are they listed like on your website?
They are listed, and in our member directory, we do highlight them. And the other thing, the benefit of getting certified. So while we're working on this through getting governmental entities to recognize it, keep in mind that a lot of Fortune 500 companies already accept the certification. Private industry, again, leading the way, such as Shell, Chevron, United, Comcast. They are actively looking for LGBT certified businesses to participate in supplier diversity and contracting opportunities, because they have a commitment to a diverse supplier pipeline.
Yep.
And we're part of that.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Good question, Toni.
Yeah.
And great information, Tammy.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
yeah, and it's not as painful as it sounds. I mean, to put your paperwork in, and I'm one of the first certified businesses in Houston through EnFocus, and we are, like I said, that's rapidly growing, and through the 4 LGBT chambers, we plan on growing that significantly over the coming years. But we also, at the LGBT chamber, this goes to, your comment earlier. I mean, we really started and we added allies to our mission statement, but it was also about us breaking down walls so we can engage with other diverse chambers in the city, so we can begin to create understanding and awareness of our community. And if we can do that all over business, we can break bread over business, and I do business with you, you do business with me, and I learn more about you, you learn more about me. That's a world we need to head for, right?
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
It's a great concept, and I can't believe it's only been here
Yeah,
I know. Yeah.
that recently.
the National LGBT Chamber constantly got a question because, of course, our colleagues in the other cities, and they were like, "Where's Houston? Where's Houston?"
Yeah, we're so huge. I mean,
Yeah, but Gary Wood and I connected in 2015. For those of you that know Gary, and he's the other co-founder of the chamber, and we started strategizing and saying we could have a chamber. And we talked to the National LGBT Chamber. They felt like we the right leaders, and we kicked it off.
that's awesome.
Yeah, and we're up to 150 plus members and growing
Nice.
now, with tremendous corporate support from, like I said, many of those companies I mentioned, as well as Amagi Bank and Bank of America, and that's growing.
Well, nice. Well, I really enjoyed this, Kiki.
Yeah,
That was awesome. Yeah.
I appreciate the opportunity to share this, and I'm very passionate about the chamber and the work we're doing. So thanks for
And I thank you for sharing your personal story, because I mean, I
Thank
think
you.
that was awesome, and I think people. I mean, that's why we do this podcast.
Yeah.
So,
And there's
yeah.
just one thing left to do, which is to beat Toni.
Okay.
this
I'm
is a
ready
show.
now.
I think she can do it.
Wow, that was very insightful, Tammy. I appreciate all that. Like I knew when we booked you as a guest, I'm like, we're gonna get a ton of information. I knew that from the moment that that we were like, if we get Tammy, we're in good shape. We will have an awesome show. So,
thank you.
so thank you for that. I mean, I knew you were a hustler, and what you just told me, like you've got more things to do. Like since we first talked, we met at an AIG
That's right.
Pride event, and from that moment, I was like, this woman has her stuff together, and
thank
you are constantly hustling, and I'm in awe. So,
Thank
and you just explained why I'm in awe, like all the things you're doing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And you're helping out on a campaign right now?
I am. I'm so proud. My wife's niece, is running for state representative for House District 148, which for those local Houston folks, it's the North Side, Heights, Garden Oaks, Oak Forest, peels up to 290. And Michelle Leal is her name, so she is running. This is a special election, 2-month campaign, which is crazy. But the current state representative, who has been a tremendous LGBTQ ally, is stepping down. And so Michelle decided to step up and run. And, I've been telling a lot of folks, I mean, she's uniquely qualified for this position, but her dad is Judge Al Leal, and he helped get a lot of women elected in the city, including the likes of Gracie Sines, Kathy Whitmire, and he now has dementia. And I say that I wish he was around. Mentally,
Yeah.
he would be so proud
Yeah.
of her for stepping up. So we're really excited. Quick 2-month campaign, but she is a tremendous LGBTQ ally and has been all of her life. So I'm excited to see what she's going to do.
Well, kudos to her for stepping up. For those listeners, October the 7th is the last day to register to vote, so make sure you do that. Is there any events she's
She has an event next week, Wednesday, October the 2nd, at Harold's in the Heights, starting at 6 o'clock. It's going to be a fun time. And her website is Leal, that's Leal, 4FOR148.com.
All right, sounds good. Well, kudos to her. Good luck to
Thank
you
you.
guys. So.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, so now the second round of this.
I'm nervous.
And
I'm
so
ner-
we've got Toni up at 10 points and Tammy 6 points, right? All right, so let's review the rules of our final round. This round will consist of 5 questions. In this round, the first to chime in and answer correctly will earn 2 points. If the person is incorrect or doesn't answer after they've chimed in, the other contestant can answer the question and earn 1 point with a steal. So, Tammy, you were probably wondering what those little things were.
This is
on
our
the-
chime in.
These are our chime in.
I
We're
thought
not that
these were just
sophisticated.
Tony's toys.
Yeah. Well, Tony has other toys. that we
Oh,
won't talk
Tammy,
about,
keep
but-
it classy.
Where's the wine?
Yeah, right. And so we've got your selection of a fan that you can thwart, a plastic cowbell equivalent, or some maracas that you can shake. So that's one of those things you can use to chime in. Tony, can you demonstrate for her how the thwarp works, though?
Yes.
Wait, there you go. Actually,
Oh,
Tony got it. There we go.
Oh,
So you
wow.
can use that to chime in, or
Spencer's
It's
like
a
an expert thwarper.
That's a distinctive sound.
yes.
I'm
If
not
you
sure
haven't
I've
been to
got
a gay
that.
bar recently, then because that's all the gays are doing that all the time.
Actually,
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of these on Facebook,
Yes.
but what is that? What's the word?
Thwarp.
Okay.
The
I see.
sound it
I've-
makes. Yeah.
I've learned something
Yes.
new tonight.
There we go. See, we're educating. That's
Yeah,
what
very
part of
good.
this. We
Really.
we kiki, we connect, we celebrate. That's what we do here. So, what's going to be your
Okay.
chime in
I
of choice?
think I'm gonna.
All right,
yeah.
maracas. There we go.
Yeah.
Tony, what are you going to do? Going to try out that?
Oh,
fan?
I'm gonna go this.
There
I
we
gotta
go.
keep it basic. I gotta be on my mental game.
Keep in mind, yeah.
I'm
All
afraid
right.
I
Worried
might.
about the thwart.
I'm afraid I might hurt Tony.
All right. So Tammy's got the maracas. How's that going to sound for us, Tammy? And Tony, you've got the cowbell. All right. All right. So category is let's talk about gay stuff. So who listened to the podcast? I know Tony probably didn't, but here we go. All right. So again, the first person to chime in, when I ask the question, you'll be the one who gets to earn points, right? So, question 1. So
do I have to use this?
Yeah. So
Okay.
if you want to answer the question,
Got
shake your maraca, and I will call on you. All right. So here we go. The TV show Modern Family premiered in what year?
2009.
That is correct. Tammy
did listen
is
to
marking her
this.
comeback. All right. Question number 2. Who was the defendant in the case in which the Kentucky Supreme Court overturned the sodomy law? Tony was not listening.
I know because today I heard it, but don't know the name.
All right.
No idea.
No guess. Jeffrey Wasson.
Yes.
All right. No worries. Question number 3. Come on, Tammy. You gotta. We got 3 out of 5. So here we go. You gotta do these if you're gonna
No
win.
pressure.
There was a petition by fans of Modern Family for Mitch and Cam to do what? You got to chime in.
Kiss.
That is
on
correct.
air.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is
I
correct.
thought that was it, but then I was like, God.
All right.
We're neck and neck.
Okay, we're neck and neck. Oh,
Oh.
a tie! Wow.
my
I'm
God.
glad I prepared these
Really
bonus
feeling the
questions.
pressure now.
Here
How
we
many
go.
questions are there left? One
We've
or
got
two?
2 more questions.
okay.
All right. The sodomy law in Kentucky in 1992 was overturned because it violated a person's right to what?
Privacy.
Tony? Privacy. That is correct. Tony is up. We have the last question. If we have the last question, Tammy, if you get this question, we're going to go into our first bonus round.
Oh my
of
God,
this
Tammy,
quiz show.
Tammy.
I'm so glad I prepared bonus questions. I'm prepared. I'm excited.
I think
You're
this
always
is the
prepared.
highest scoring quiz show edition
You're
ever.
always prepared.
Here we go.
I'm proud of us. I'm
All
proud
right.
of us.
Yeah, I'm proud of you guys too. Good job, guys. Here we go. Final question of round 2. How many people were arrested in the sting in which Jeffrey Wasson was arrested under the anti-sodomy law? This one's a nugget of it. Like it's dug in there, but was said a couple times.
Can you repeat?
Yeah. How many people were arrested in the sting in which Jeffrey Wasson was arrested under the anti-sodomy law? We can't end on a no answer. Spencer's going to be this age next year.
Oh, really? I was gonna guess 2. Let me think.
Oh, but Tony doesn't know how old I'm going to be next year.
Yeah. Oh,
25.
that is incorrect. Tammy, you've got
Thank you.
one chance. I mean, I know Spencer
Wait,
looks
how
young
old
and
are
all,
you?
but
37.
no, that is incorrect. You just hurt, you just hurt Spencer's feelings.
29.
29.
29.
Yeah.
I
All
thought you were
right.
like 25 or
I
26.
was thinking 29, but 37 came out. I'm sorry.
All right. So that means then that Tony, come on. Tony won the game. Way to go, Tony. Way to represent.
But I would say I got like almost every podcast question wrong.
honestly,
in which I
like,
participate.
I had to go back and like I should. You would think that as much as we do these podcasts, like I would know, like easily be able to spit out questions. But I listened to this episode like 3 times to make sure I'm like, what was the question? So you're all good. You're good. So
I was listening today, and then on the, so, and I knew I was going to.
And I'm a big.
I should have had the 29.
I'm a high level person. I'm not a details person, even though I'm an engineer and in
Yeah,
finance.
engineer,
which
finance
is
guy. Approvals are based on Tony's.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
That's scary.
All right. Well, congratulations to you, Tony. Tammy, tough break, but thank you for participating today.
Absolutely.
All right. So before we close out, we had a final score, though. What was that final score? Not to rub it in, Tammy, but...
Let me go back. It is Tony 12, Tammy 10.
Oh, it was such a close game.
That was
very close.
But
I'll
thank
take
you.
it.
That's
I'll
the
take it.
closest game.
I'll take it.
Highest scoring game. So you should feel proud about that. But before we close out, another word from our sponsor. Over to Spencer.
Hey, did you know that the unemployment rate is below 4% in the U.S.? If you're trying to hire someone, then you probably already know that because you're having trouble finding quality candidates. Economy Works is here to help. Don't have time, energy, or the resources to hire? Economy Works is ready to help you write job descriptions, find candidates, review resumes, and phone screen candidates. Let the Economy Works Talent Network help you do more with less. Economy Works. When we work, the economy works. Find out more at economyworks.com. That's economiworks.com.
You got it. See, Tony, I don't know, Tony, if you're going to lose your job from that because he's definitely got a Canadian accent that's coming in there, and I don't know how that plays too.
Oh.
You still have a job.
I'm fully resigning if I don't lose my job.
All right. So thank you to our sponsor, Economy Works, and thank you to Tammy. Thank you for
Thank you.
joining
Yes,
us.
thank you.
Like I said earlier, I knew it was going to be a special episode, and you exceeded expectations. So thank you. And like I said, your story that you shared with us was fantastic.
I loved it. Yeah.
I mean, you got personal with us, so we appreciate that. And like I said, I have been admiring you since I've met you last
the
May.
feeling is mutual.
And what you're doing, like we were at the Power Hour yesterday, and Nick Wolney with Hefty Marketing was showing that slide that said there are so many hours, and like you have the same hours a day as Beyonce, and I feel that way about Tammy Wallace. So
thank
you are doing your thing, and we are watching in awe. So keep setting that example. I often tell folks, like, you can be the example, right? You can be a good example, you can be a bad example,
Absolutely.
but be the example. So, and you are setting an awesome example.
Thank
so
you.
Appreciate that. So thank you for joining us. Don't forget to follow Tammy. So with the LGBT Chamber of Commerce, you noted earlier, you can find the website at HoustonLGBTChamber.com. It's on Twitter. So all the social media platforms at Houston LGBT COC. That's on Twitter and on Instagram and Facebook at Houston LGBT Chamber. And then, of course, EnFocus Group, which is your day job, although
Absolutely.
I'm sure they both feel like day jobs.
They bleed sometimes, yes.
You can find EnFocus Group at EnFocusGroup.com and on Twitter at the same, and Facebook and Instagram, all the same name, EnFocus Group. So follow Tammy wherever she is. She's hustling, so you got to keep up, but be quick. So Tammy, any parting words before we let you go?
Well, first, thank you. I really appreciate you all. Let me come on in and talk about the Chamber and EnFocus Group, but thank you for what you're doing with this podcast. We were talking about this earlier, but you're making a huge difference in giving people a learning opportunity, and I know it's a lot of work, so I really appreciate you guys for doing it.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. So, of course, thank you to Tony. Good job, Tony.
Thank you.
You won. Way to go.
I want a rematch.
Yeah, we will bring you back for a rematch. And Kendall, thank you for the key. Spencer, thank you for chiming in, for
Spencer, thank
helping
you.
out,
I
filling in
cannot
for
thank you enough.
showing Tony how the real work is done. You can find Spencer on
Keep
our
showing me,
Spoopy
keep showing
podcast. He and Chris are putting out a ton of content, not just with scary stories and their urban legends and true crime stories, but they've also added a separate channel or few shows, if you will, talking about drag shows. So they're talking about Dragula and now UK drag star. So if you want to get their dish and their take on those episodes, you can listen to Spencer and Chris at Our Spoopy Podcast. So you can find them wherever you listen to podcasts. So thank you. We enjoyed another fun episode. So good job, guys. Be sure to follow us on the web at letstalkaboutgaystuff.com. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Let's Talk About Gay Stuff. And on Twitter, we're tweeting at Talk Gay Stuff. Don't forget to subscribe subscribe and download our podcast where you listen to our podcast. And we'd love to hear what you think. Leave us a review. So for another episode of Let's Talk About Gay Stuff, we're here.
We're queer.
Get used to it.